Hi. I'm so grateful that you're here. So it's February. It's later than I usually would do a first video for the month. It's been a crazy month. Um, I had, yeah, it was some acting stuff. I was auditioning for something basically, and I just got really emotionally wrapped up in it and invested in it. And it's very hard for me to multitask that when I'm also working. Um, so yeah, I was like really over invested in this thing, and then I didn't get it. And I'm on like a learning curve with dealing with that because that's just the reality. That's just how uh, that kind of gig goes down. But it's really hard. It's really hard. And I was also, I had applied for a writing residency, which I didn't get. I had applied to have some work in a festival, which I didn't get. So it's a little a little dark night of the soulish, which is interesting because I just had one of these in November, and so I feel that I deserve an exemption, but I don't get one. Um, so I'm trying to figure out what is in my control that I can work on. And I am doing some poetry shows in New England, in my hometown, and also in Boston and New Hampshire next month. Figuring out how to really how to make that good and how I want to show up in those places where I've been and where I've been practicing that form for a long time. Uh, yeah, like 20 years ago was the first time that I did my poetry in my hometown. So that's a big reflective moment. Um, and then I'm looking at booking shows that are a little less accessible to me, looking at booking stuff in Los Angeles, and still trying to put something together for Europe. Although I have, again, because I was so like consumed trying to get this job, I wasn't following up that well with my other stuff. And so now the European shows are pushed back more towards June. Um, and that's hard mostly because it's like predicting expenses around that is really hard. So I am just in this kind of freeform, anxious, knowing I need to make money and not really knowing how much. And that is, of course, really hard to stay connected to a creative practice while that's true, and makes me so grateful for you folks for giving me a margin of breathing room and making me remember that I do have part of my livelihood always is coming from my art by way of you. So thank you for giving me that. um, I am also still doing some stuff that is great. I'm able to take a class right now, audit a class about Bertolt Brecht and Susan Laurie Parks, the two playwrights, um, doing watching scene study and hearing this director Evan Janulus, who is a Yale person, hearing her talk about their bodies of work and their bodies of work in conversation. Um, and I also saw recently a friend in a production of this play, The Escape or Leap to Freedom, which is a play written by an abolitionist, a black abolitionist, um, about escaping from a plantation. And I saw this play done with an all-black cast. So the plantation holders, everyone played by black people. And so yeah, so it still is like all roads are leading kind of into this work that I am being used for, that I'm a vessel of. Um, and the questions are still, I still have a lot of questions about this, like Brecht, Laurie Parks, like elevation, making strange alienation quality, where the story gets really heightened into story, into like a fairy tale or a mythology, um, versus, you know, verisimilitude, versus trying to make something that's really more fine-grained and photorealistic and sensitive. Um, and are those things mutually exclusive? Those kind of questions. Especially, again, you know, I'm a white writer working with black characters in these unimaginable circumstances in this chapter in our history. And so the recurring question is like, how close do I want to locate myself inside of that experience? How close am I allowed to be? To what extent are those experiences like universal because they're unimaginable to anyone at this point, versus you know, the idea that they are traumatically encoded into genes of people of color and not narratives that I, in clear conscience, can address. So yeah, I do really want to have another more immersive time with the novel. I'm, as I said, looking at booking these shows for June. This kind of more ambitious travel, and then I'm hoping that coming out of that, I'll be able to find a way to cheaply spend a month or a few weeks somewhere and just be with that every day. I had wanted to do it sooner. Um, yeah, I'm just working, trying to deal with money all the time. And it's very disruptive to that. So yeah, that's where I am. Um, and I'm so glad to have your support. And it is, you know, I regret still being in a kind of maudlin place, because I feel like you certainly have heard it from me. Um, but that is where I am. And even from here, it's possible to do work, and even more possible with your help. Um, yeah, I'll check in again very soon. Thank you.